All good. All right, we'll call the meeting to order this morning. Welcome to the second meeting of the regular Board of Commissioners meetings for March. Today's date is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, times 9 a.m. Commissioners present. We have Commissioner Becker absent today. The rest of the commissioners are all here, along with the auditor, treasurer, coordinator, and legal representation from the attorney's office. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amendments to the agenda.
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Any others? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Newman,
Second.
second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent.
Consent items today are the meeting minute approval for March 1st, 2022, a gambling permit for Little Birch Lake Association, gambling permit Staples All Veterans and Community Park Association, resignation of Josiah Furman, part-time road deputy, resignation of Jacob Noshbush, land use planner, the promotion of Jamie Christensen to land use planner, hire solid waste supervisor Michael Eberly, and resignation Jen Foderman, social worker.
Okay, you've heard the consent items. I would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Auditor, treasurer.
The first item today then is the auditor warrants for February 2022. That is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the February 2022 auditor warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $1,917,263.66.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the approval of the auditor warrants totaling $1,917,263.66. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Next item I have is the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $71,487.72.
Seen the board action for the commissioner warrants totaling $71,487.72. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Oops, sorry, roll call.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $160,722.15.
Okay, we've seen the board action for the Health and Human Services Commissioner warrants totaling $160,722.15. Look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
The next item then is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with a ACH payment and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $38,672.27.
You've seen the board action for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants totaling balance $38,672.27. Would look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
The next item I have is from the motor pool vehicle replacement due to loss. The background is one of the motor pool vehicles, a 2018 Chevrolet Impala, sustained damage in a December 2021 accident which deemed the vehicle a total loss. The Todd County Auditor Treasurer has reached out to local area for replacement vehicles. A 2013 Chevy Equinox has been identified as a suitable replacement from Nia Chevrolet, Staples, Minnesota. The insurance claim will be able to fund this entire purchase for a total bid of $18,277.18. Your options are to approve the purchase or do not approve, and the recommendation is to approve the purchase of the 2013 Chevy Equinox from Nia Chevrolet for the total purchase price of $18,277.18 per the attached proposed purchase agreement, while utilizing the insurance claim funds to fully support this purchase.
Okay, you've seen and heard the board action in regards to the motor pool car replacement. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Second. Second by Newman. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Obviously, we have a rotation of vehicles, right? And I'm not opposed to buying this, but being this is a 2013, how does this fit into the rotation then when we come to
Well, the
replace
mileage on this vehicle was
it? Is low,
exceptional.
right.
It was only 29,000 miles. It was an older gentleman that could no longer drive and didn't put miles on. And so for us to get a car is like
Right.
a year out. So rotation, we'll look at the miles of this and not the year. It's in
Okay,
excellent
that's what I was
condition.
wondering, because
Yeah.
when we do our rotation,
Yep.
usually we look at the year and
Yep.
mileage and,
Yep, year and mileage
So-
combo kind of together is how we,
okay,
and also we take in the factor how many claims we have on repairs.
Yep.
That too indicates replacement, but
thank you.
thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item then we have is the transfer of funds for ARPA project expenses. The background there exists ARPA SLFRF used expended funds which have been approved by the county board involving the supportive positions. These expenses are not able to be billed directly to Fund 19 and now necessitate realignment of the county departments that incurred the expenses for inclusion and reporting with the U.S. Treasury. In order to comply with audit standards, it's recommended to approve the transfer of these funds from Fund 19, or ARPA Fund, to the General Fund, Fund 1, for the total amount of $40,290.77. Your options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution. It is the recommendation to approve the attached resolution for the transfer of funds for ARPA expenses.
You've seen the board action in regards to the transfer of ARPA funds to the general fund, or general revenue fund, Fund 01. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item is the sale of a parcel to the city of Burrillville. The background is the parcel 30-0040000 has forfeited to the state of Minnesota for non-payment of property taxes. The city of Burrillville has interest in purchasing this parcel. Recommendations is to approve the sale of the tax forfeited parcel in the city of Burrillville, as parcel number listed, for the amount of $1,102.65 to the city of Burrillville. The price includes all fees.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we
Sure.
discuss, this parcel has been on the forfeit rolls for
Many years.
many years.
Many.
And I talked with Lauren about this, and the city administrator in Barville, and I really was gonna zero it out and give it to them, but we can't do that, when we give it to another entity, we have to sell it to them, so I reduced the price down to $1,000 and they said they wanted to buy it, so that's why we're down to this amount, just to get it. It's not going back on the tax rolls, but at least I think they've been mowing it for probably years, taking care of it, so it's just a matter to put it in somebody's hands, other hands than ours, and they'll probably use it someplace where, they talked about maybe a potential little park or something, but, that's still in the making, but, that's why we're at the price we're at, so, just to get rid of it, so. Kind of up there in that weird triangle, Lauren, where 21 and 71
goes up.
meet, and it's kind of been a situation for years up there, so.
All right, you've seen the board action.
So I'll move, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion to approve the sale of the forfeited parcel as listed to the city of Burrville. Motion is made by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The last item then today is the, setting the date, time, and location for the tax forfeited land auction. Background is the full listing of the tax forfeited parcels that will be on the April 8th is attached. These are the parcels that are coming up for sale that have forfeited. Our recommendation is to approve and set the date as per the attached resolution. I believe the date will be, is what we have noted, April 8th, 2022. It'll be at 10 a.m. here in the boardroom.
Okay, you've seen the board action to set the date with the resolution for the land forfeiture sale for April 8th, 10 a.m. in the boardroom, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Good morning. So our one item on the agenda this morning for Public Works is a request for approval of MnDOT Agreement 1049548. And the background with this is MnDOT is planning to reconstruct Highway 27 from Highway 71 down here south of town by Midway all the way into Osakis. And as part of that reconstruction project, they need to detour a majority of the traffic for the summer onto our County Road 51 going south out of Osakis to our County Road 2, then back onto 71. And as part of that process, they've presented us the attached agreement, which is their standard agreement, which provides us basically compensation for the use of that, around $36,146.65. It's their standard agreement they use, and we've approved in many projects in the past. So with that being said, our options are to approve the attached resolution and agreement, or do not approve the attached resolution agreement, and our recommendation is to approve the attached resolution and agreement for the MnDOT agreement number 1049548.
Okay, you've seen the board action. We have a resolution in regards to the agreement with MnDOT for a detour for Highway 27. Look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So the Solid Waste Department has received a CAP grant for $4 million. We have that grant fully executed, and we've attached here a professional services agreement with Stantec, previously or formerly known as Wink. We've spent a fair amount of time just reviewing this for scope of services and general conditions to make sure that it's appropriate for the work of designing, permitting, bidding, and doing construction administration for the construction of a new transfer station and household hazardous waste facility. The contract amount is for $593,500. Our recommendation is to approve the professional services agreement. Looking for any questions that you may have on that.
I'll open it up for questions first before we make the motion, if you'd like. My question would be, do we have someplace to make up that 93,000 then in difference in, because am I reading it correct? Well, the application, the grant application included 500,000. In our
Correct.
total bid wise, would that affect anything differently on our calculation of costs?
You're correct, Chair. So the original budget that we went over with the committee that's working on this project used the 500,000 in our budget. There is some contingency in the project to cover that, but, you know, given the current market conditions, I think, there's a lot on the table that we'll have to review. So the 93,000 would be part of that.
I'm just looking at it going, that's 20%. I'm on what I call a small dollar amount in relationship to the total one.
Right.
It's a large amount of money for the
Well, I'm sure the total will end up being at least that much.
percent. Yeah, it very well could and more, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I know Clay County was like double, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Facility
and
was
they
double.
rebid theirs to reduce cost, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the bids came in, I think they were budgeted in the mid-teens. The bid came in at 19 million. They paid the consultant more money to rebid it to lower the costs. It came in at 21.
No, worked out well. We won't talk about that stuff no more. All right, you've seen the board action, looking for a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, motion by Kneisel to approve,
I'll second it.
seconded by Newman. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in,
If I may, Mr. Chair, if I understand it correctly, then that'll reduce our grant to
Sure.
$500,000, right?
Yeah,
correct.
The
It would be a
grant
portion
is for
of it.
$4 million.
Right, but if we do the 593, that'll reduce it by that amount then, am I correct? Or is this an additional?
This is, so the grant included the cost of the engineering services. So, and the match is a 75% match, so you're right, like if we spend all the money in the budget and there's 93,500 left, all of that comes out of our pocket. They don't match that overage.
Yeah, okay,
All right,
it's quite a chunk.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Administration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So today the topic is temporary or seasonal employee wages. Background being, we are requesting an increase in the beginning hourly rate of pay for temporary and seasonal employees to $19 per hour, with an increase of the beginning wage each year equal to the cost of living adjustment. Temporary and seasonal employees who return the following year will receive a $1 pay increase per hour, not to exceed the lowest wage paid to a union employee in that department. This matter has been brought to the Personnel Committee, and currently we are recruiting for summer staff in the Sheriff's Office, Solid Waste, and Public Works. Your options are to approve this pay increase, or number two, not approve this pay increase, with the recommendation being to approve it.
Okay, you've seen the board action in regard to the temporary or seasonal employee wage. Would look for a motion.
Move for discussion.
A motion by Kircher, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Newman, discussion.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but how does this fit into the budget process? If the departments have budgeted for part-time help at the current wage, and now if we increase it, how does that affect their budgets?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kircher, this would be for an employee who would work, a seasonal employee who would work no more than 100 hours, depending on what type. Lauren, I'm looking at you specifically. 100 days, I'm sorry.
In the summer, our summer help work right around 500 to 600 hours.
Yep, I'm speaking days. So 67 days or 100 days, depending on what class they are. So while this is an increase in, I would say within Public Works budget, it would be an increase that I think his budget would be able to support. So I mean, it's a slight increase, not a huge dollar amount.
What's the current rate?
16,
16, 15, 14.
Starting wage is $14 an hour.
For part-time?
Yeah,
So it's
For
a
seasonal.
$5 increase, is
It
that what
is.
we're talking?
correct.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the budgets,
Budget would have been budgeted for the 14.
right?
right,
In our discussion at Personnel Committee, the departments looking at it didn't seem to have a problem of
Okay.
absorbing it within their budgets.
And it's a short-term,
yeah, I just wanna make sure we don't stretch their budgets thin, and,
Yep.
I mean, $14 is,
Yep.
that's way below for the work they're performing, so, and you can't attract anyone for that amount anymore, so. I'm agreeing with it, I'm just concerned about the budget, so.
Yep.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Becker did let me know if she was opposed to this. She didn't feel we should go to 19. She thought maybe 18. You know, with those three offices having problems getting summer help, I mean, we gotta do something. And I know at Rainbow Rider, we bumped up the part-time driver's fee to $2 an hour. So I think we're at like 18. So I mean, you gotta do it. And they went from 1 applicant to 6 applicants once we went that $2 raise. So
Just with that,
it
yeah.
makes a difference.
Mr.
And
Chair,
then
if
with
I
gas prices.
Yes.
If I could just add, one of our neighboring counties is advertising at this time for a seasonal boat and water, and they're over $21.
I was gonna say, they might start here, but they're gonna leave, because if they go, they'll jump to another department if agency, if they see the wages are higher, so.
Yeah. Any other discussion? We had a motion and a second for approval of the adjustment to $19 per hour. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Yep. Soil and water.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My first item this morning is the AIS contract. If I can get there. The request for proposal for AIS inspection services were advertised and open for bid from January 21st to February 25th. We received 2 bids, one from Water Guards LLC in the amount of $128,370, and the second from Waterfront Restorations for $127,927. The AIS funds are issued to the county and then turn over to the SWCD to fulfill the grant agreement. The SWCD board has reviewed both applications, requests to grant the contract to Water Guards LLC for 2022. So the option would be a motion to support the grant in the AIS contract to Water Guards, or a motion to not support it. And we can go back to the SWCD board to reconsider the options. And the recommendation would be a motion to support the granting of the 2022 AIS prevention contract to Water Guards LLC in the amount of $128,370. This process hasn't been done in the past, but because of the pass-through of money, we felt it was necessary to just kind of have everybody on the same page with these AIS funds. Water Guards is the contractor we've worked with for, I think, the last 6 years. They do a nice job. They were very, very slightly higher rate because of some training that they wanted to do, but the Soil and Water Board felt that the difference in cost was negligible for the service that they provide and their familiarity with Todd County.
I'll open it up for questions. I'm gonna look illegal. Any issues with that?
No.
Is there anything in there that would have stated that we're taking low bid? Or anything of the sort in the far as when we put out the bids, like when we're advertising for the bids? Is there anything that says,
Not that I'm aware of. These funds come through the DNR, and they allow the county or the soil and water to perform how they want to with the grant funds that come through. And the difference, I don't remember what it's a few $100 difference. Very negligible.
issues?
I don't see one.
Shouldn't see seen. Okay. I would look for a motion.
I'll move that we, support the AIS contract with water guards.
Okay, motion by Newman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kneisel. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Planning and zoning.
Yep, planning and zoning stuff now. We'll switch the page. Okay. All right, yeah, on to county-related matters. The Crow Wing River One Watershed One Plan application resolution. The state of Minnesota requires counties to develop comprehensive watershed management plans. The One Watershed One Plan serves as the substitute to allow counties to work on a watershed basis. Todd County, along with the SWCD and neighboring partners, intend to submit a grant application to start the planning process for the Crow Wing River watershed. The planning process does require involvement from elected officials to serve on the policy committee, as policy committee has the final word on the direction of the plan. The option would be to pass the resolution in support of this grant application or to deny the resolution, and the recommendation would to pass the resolution in support of the One Watershed One Plan grant application to the Board of Water and Soil Resources. So this at this time is just support of pursuing the grant, not guaranteeing that we'll go through the process because we need to receive that grant first. So this is just supporting pursuing that application.
Okay, you've heard the board action, and we have a resolution in support of the One Watershed One Plan grant application. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, Mose D. Borntrager request for CUP. An application for conditional use permit was suspended on August 12th, 2021 for establishment of temporary family housing on parcel 20-0001700 in Reynolds Township. The application was reviewed during the September 2021 and March 2022 Planning Commission hearings. The applicant did sign an extension to the decision deadline on November 5th. The final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to deny the application based on the following findings of fact. One, that the proposed structure to be used for temporary family housing is an existing structure at the time of application. Two, that section 9.17A, part 2 of the Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance states that the dwelling size shall not exceed 1,280 square feet, be 1 story or 2 bedrooms. And 3, that the existing structure consists of 1.5 bedrooms, 1,032 square feet, and 4 bedrooms. So the option would be a motion to deny the application based on the findings of fact, or a motion to approve the application with potential conditions. And the recommendation would be a motion to deny the request for CUP on parcel 20-0001700 based on the findings of fact.
Okay, you've heard the board action for the request for the CUP from Moses Borntrager. I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Motion to deny?
Motion to deny, I would say that was the recommendation.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, the Little Birch Hills Vista preliminary plat. An application for subdivision was received on February 8th to establish a single lot plat on parcel 0300-22400 in Birchdale Township. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 3rd meeting. The final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the preliminary plat with the following conditions. Just one condition, that the applicant must abide by all other applicable federal, state, and local standards. The option would be to grant the preliminary plat with the proposed conditions, deny it, or remand it back to the Planning Commission, and the recommendation at this time would be to grant the preliminary plat with the proposed condition.
Okay, you've heard the board action for the Little Birch Hills Vista preliminary plat. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman
Approve.
to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Kircher. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, next, the Henry Slaba Amish Cemetery preliminary plat. An application for subdivision to establish a private cemetery on parcel 2100-31400, Round Prairie Township, was received on February 9th. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 3rd meeting. And the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve the preliminary plat with the following conditions. 1, that the applicant shall remain compliant with other applicable local, state, and federal regulations related to the operations of a cemetery. 2, to declare a cemetery official and an alternate that will be responsible for following state rules and provide contact information to the county to be recorded with the final plat. 3, maintain a list of individuals buried in exact location within the cemetery. And 4, cemetery plot must be completely fenced off with boundaries clearly identified. All burial sites must remain inside the fenced area. The option would be to grant the preliminary plat with the proposed conditions, deny the preliminary plat, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation would be to grant the preliminary plat with those proposed conditions.
Okay, you've heard the board action in regards to the Amish Cemetery preliminary plat.
Do we have a visual on this one?
There is the preliminary plat drawing on the next page, but otherwise I don't have an aerial image in there.
You know where it's located at,
Right.
Randy? I don't.
It comes off 170th, and they have an access easement that comes over to it. It's about like 3.5 miles east of 71 in Round Prairie Township.
And how many, I'm sorry, how many acres was it? Or
Two.
what?
2 acres,
2 acres.
2.01 to be exact.
Okay.
That's the minimum lot size requirement. Typically, something like this, you could just do an administrative split, but our subdivision ordinance says that cemetery plots have to be platted.
Yeah.
So we're going through this process for it.
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question. So, do they understand the local, state, and federal regulations? I mean, do we have a list of that we can give them? So they
We
understand?
certainly can get it all together. That's one thing I actually struggled with, is there's not a lot of guidance out there or statutes related to private cemeteries. So we'll give them what we can. We looked at the soils and tried to just make sure this was a good site for this purpose, and it seems that it is. So we'll give them what we can.
I know there was information at the meeting into groundwater levels and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they were well below the 6-foot mark.
Yeah.
And I think the state law says they must be fenced in. That's one of the state laws.
Yeah.
so-
Right,
That's
and
stated
I,
in here.
if you recall back about 2 years ago, we had the Aldrich Amish Cemetery. I looked at that as kind of a template to go through this process, so the conditions are nearly identical to that one that we approved a couple years ago.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
I'll second. I have one more question.
Seconded by Kircher.
If I may, Mr. Chair, one thing we've been concerned about, I think we discussed with these Amish cemeteries, is maintenance. The township, if they would abandon the cemetery, does the state say the township takes it over, or how is that?
I don't have an immediate answer to
We
that.
talked about this before,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. I know with the churches, the township would have to take them over. If the church abandons them.
have that answer.
I think some townships, when we talked before, were concerned about this. And, when the Amish would, let's say they would abandon the cemetery and leave, then who maintains the cemetery
Right,
after that? Or does it just let the grass grow up and let it
right.
disappear? But
We did have a township member there, and they discussed this at a meeting prior to the decision and had no issues with it.
well, it's not
So,
always something you think of, but
Right. Yep.
just down the road, I know we discussed this before at a previous cemetery request, and I think the township at that time was present asking about, we're concerned about
Right.
if they would abandon the cemetery, who would take care of it, so.
It's something I can get an answer to or try to get an answer to.
Just bringing that to light. so.
I suspect we have another Amish cemetery coming in the near future, so it'd be a good time to address that between now and then.
I'm not opposed to it, I'm just saying it's just something we need to be concerned about, because
Sure.
obviously they are a pretty transient community, and all of a sudden they decide, hey, we're leaving, and here's a cemetery then that's sitting there that, who's gonna take care of it?
Sure.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, we had a motion by Newman and a second by Kircher. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, and a request to rezone parcel 1800378000. A request to rezone this parcel located in Long Prairie Township was submitted on February 9th by Daniel Gingrich. The request was to rezone from R10 to AF1 for the purpose of establishing a farm site with additional animal units. The request was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 3rd meeting, and the final recommendation was to grant the rezone with no conditions. The options are to grant the rezone with no conditions, deny, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. The recommendation was to grant the rezone to parcel 1800378000 from R10 to AF1 with no conditions.
All right, you've seen the board action in regards to rezoning parcel number 18-0037-800. Look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Knizel, discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, where's this located?
Oh, this is just, yeah, you might
Just
be able-
south of Long Prairie, off from 71, it has bordering AF1 right to it,
East side.
east, nope, west side of 71. Yep. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have a few board action forms here to present to you today. First one being the Northern Pines Purchase of Service Agreement. It's an amended contract for children's mental health targeted case management. Some background. The Minnesota Department of Human Services, counties, and the Minnesota Association of Social Services administrators have collaborated with the Fiscal Analysis Consultant Group, known as Guidehouse, on the development of a statewide rate methodology for fee-for-service, county subcontracted, targeted case management services. This rate methodology will be effective July 1st, 2022. Todd County Health and Human Services has a contract with Northern Pines to provide the targeted case management services of children's mental health. The rate change requires Health and Human Services to update the Northern Pines contract with the new statewide rate of $712 per month per monthly eligible contact. Options: to approve the amended Northern Pines Purchase of Service Agreement, or to not approve. It's our recommendation to approve the amended Northern Pines Purchase of Service Agreement. This rate is, just note in the comments, it's budgeted. The rate is going from $406 to $712. This is a state contract that we are amending. And it is budgeted with a maximum of $35,000 for Northern Pines, which they've never come close to the $35,000 mark.
Chair, I'll abstain from voting. I sit on that board, so I'll abstain from voting.
Okay. All right, you've seen the board action in regards to the children's mental health targeted case management. And we are looking for an amended service agreement. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Kenizel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will state down there too, if you didn't hear that, Commissioner Kircher abstained, correct?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't understand what he was.
You're trying to trap me, kind of.
Yeah.
So I was,
Huh?
Second options. All right. Our next board action form is for ARPA funding with Community Health Funds request. Some background, Title III funding provided by Central Minnesota Council on Aging is no longer available to meet the demands of home-delivered meals. Currently, any county resident who is not on a waiver or able to pay private pay is put on a wait list for home-delivered meals. ARPA funds are being requested to subsidize the cost of home-delivered meals to ensure no county resident is put on a waiting list for meals. Our options are to approve the use of the ARPA funds to meet the need for our senior meals, or to not approve. It's the recommendation of ARPA funds to meet the needs for senior meals. Catherine, is there anything you wanted to add? I know we did have a good discussion at our community health ARPA committee meeting this past week, I think it was. It was a short turnaround and request, but also holds some urgency. I know typically this goes through Finance Committee first, these approvals, but again, we had some concerns that people are being discharged from the hospitals or in need in our community, and if they cannot afford to pay for these meals, they may be going without. So I'll let you add anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, when she mentioned finance, that finance did have a meeting on it, so we are following the protocol of our set rules. We just had a conversation with them separately.
Yeah, an expedited request, so I appreciate
I
the
just wanted to
flexibility
comment
of,
on that.
thank you.
So we continue to work with Central Minnesota Council on Aging on this funding issue. As you all know, we had a lot of federal stimulus dollars, which were able to do meal drops to increase home delivered meals in 2020, 2021. Unfortunately, those funds went away, and now Title III isn't able to meet the demand. And so right now we have 323 clients in Todd County on Title III funding. At this point, there's as few people, 2 or 3 on the wait list. But my concern is that as soon as people hear there's a wait list, from January 1st, there's been a wait list, that they won't call when they need it. And so we've had social workers at the hospitals too who are quite upset when they hear that there's a wait list. As you all are aware, people don't seek these meals till they need them. So I think our biggest concern is that if it were to be known that there's a wait list, we'd have a lot of seniors who'd say, oh, that's, I don't need them, someone else can get them first. And as we know, these help keep people in their homes longer, right, and safely keep them in their homes. So until the funding gets clarified, and I hope it does at the state and gets increased, those funds, and also Title III has a lot of buckets of funding, they need to push more into their home delivered meals, right? Congregate isn't as utilized as much as home delivered at this time. So I think it'll become, it'll get cleared up in the next year or two, but as we all know, these are federal dollars and federal come to state, and that takes a lot of time to make sure that they get it clarified and also can make sure that those dollars get allocated appropriately. So I appreciate the board's support of this request.
Okay, seen the board action and heard the background on the ARPA money Community Health Fund request. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, where did you pick the $10,000 from out of the sky?
Again, it's a sliding fee, right? And we'll treat this just like Title III, where again, you ask people the cost of a meal is $7.25. What are they able to pay? I think this is the amount That would probably get us through a year or two. Again, if we don't utilize all the funds, that's fine too. It was difficult to come up with an amount because it is an estimate based on how many more seniors we might see need these meals, right? And then the hope is too, when people aren't on Title III, or if they leave that, they go back on Title III. So it was a difficult thing. We said 5 to 10,000 was sort of an estimate. I'll work with LSS to figure out, more about that.
The reason I ask that is I wanna know if it's enough.
At this time, I do think it's enough, and I think it is one of those things we're going to see over the next year, is that the amount. Right now, CMCOA has a $1.5 million budget shortfall, but that's for all 14 counties. Yeah. So our portion of that, is a small amount. And Randy or Commissioner Newman, maybe you have more insight on that. It was a difficult thing to estimate, but I do think that that's enough to cover at least a year.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure it was enough. You picked at a number, 10,000 looks like, okay.
I think it is enough at this time. We do hope with the sliding fee and then getting people on to Title III that this is just gap funding. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And maybe Catherine can come back in December and give us a report on it, how it's going.
We'll put it on our calendar, make sure we do.
Would you please?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Question?
One other comment is the committee did discuss that at great lengths, and we even asked Catherine at that time what she thought, just as you did, Commissioner Kircher, so it was discussed at great length on the amount, and that's what you felt comfortable with.
Again, this happened quickly, so I did speak with LSS yesterday, and they were going to work with me on the billing process for this as well. So I do think it's, at this point, I feel like that's about the right amount in order to kind of see if we can meet those needs over the next year. Again, if state funding comes down, we're not going to supplant, so we're going to utilize those state dollars when they become available.
Thank you.
All right. We had a motion and a second. I don't think we had a vote yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we had a motion by Newman and a second by Kneisel. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have Energy Assistance Program delivery for federal fiscal year 2023. Time is flying by. So I have Lisa
I think we're
here.
all gonna need fuel assistance.
Yeah.
I don't think it works in your gas tank, but I'm not sure.
Do you have a program for that?
No, I don't.
Amy is on vacation.
Not yet.
Right.
Not yet, yeah.
Amy's on vacation, so Lisa's going to sit in for her. Some background. The critical role of service providers in the administration and delivery of energy assistance requires Minnesota Department of Commerce to request early notice of possible EAP service provider changes for federal fiscal year 2023. The Department of Commerce requires a written letter no later than April 1st, 2022, clearly stating the county's intent to administer and deliver EAP for federal fiscal year 2023. Options are to approve the notification of the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Todd County's intent to administer and deliver the Energy Assistance Program for federal fiscal year 2023, or to not approve. It's our recommendation to approve the notification to the Minnesota Department of Commerce to submit our intent to administer and deliver the Energy Assistance Program for 2023.
Okay, you've heard the board action in regards to the energy assistance program being delivered from the county itself here
Just a
for
question, Mr.
2023.
Chair, have they increased the funding?
I don't know if that's out yet, is it? For 2023?
For next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are
Or
they gonna
I,
increase
I
any
do
for this
have
year?
some statistics for how this year is going, and they have increased
Okay,
tremendously. So,
sorry, I
that,
just wanted to make
No,
sure.
you're fine.
Thank you.
so the applications approved, as of March 10th, 2022 is 1,233. This is an increase of 35% since the same time last year. Primary heat awarded as of March 10th was $1,535,703. Primary heat awarded this time last year was $809,370. And again, this is just in Todd County. The maximum grant award has been raised from $1,200 to $2,000 this year. This and the increase in numbers is what has led to the large increase in primary heat awards. So the last year's average was $771. This year, the average is $1,244. We've served 255 crisis households. The amount obligated was $157,027. We don't have the numbers from last year at this time. I don't know why. That was the only thing that wouldn't show up on the reports. ERR, we've seen an increase also. This year we've served, as of the 10th of March, 89 households. Last year was 69. So ERR obligated as of 3/10, $202,225.68. This time last year was $133,064.37. So we're seeing an increase in every area. You know, we don't always see things go backwards, you know, once they come with the funding. So I don't know. I can't see that we're going to have a lot less next year. And then the water program, which was new to the program this year. It's separate from the other energy assistance funds, but we've served 66 households for water and sewer past due or disconnect in the amount of $18,664. And the average award was $282.79. And that maximum is $1,200 for the year.
ERR is emergency repair request? Is
Yes,
right?
right. That's the repairs to the furnaces, replacements of furnaces.
Well, I would imagine just, there's people out there right now that gotta be hurting for heating fuel because the prices are just going out of the world here.
Yes.
And to fill up your LP tank or fuel has gotta be, I mean, it's gotta be a great impact to their budgets, and if they can even handle it in their budgets.
Yeah, I mean, a fill, I don't know what a fill, but I'm sure it's over $1,000 for,
I just filled, 2 tanks of mine. It was pretty well, last time was over 1,000. This time it was, I filled a little earlier, but it went from 229 to 259, and that's quite an increase. And, you know, it's a struggle even for us to pay that, but I can't imagine somebody that has very little income even trying to
absolutely.
keep their house warm, so.
Even a minimum fill is
Yeah,
more
it's-
than they can, you know, more than they can afford.
Lisa, how does the expenditures that we've had so far compare to what was allocated for it? I mean, came as a grant, I would guess, or funding for that stuff? I mean, is there funds left yet?
Oh, yeah.
They've been giving out tons of funds, haven't they?
Yeah. And when we
Tons of fun, I
get,
said tons of funds.
Our dates have also gone out quite a ways.
yeah, last year there was not even a break in the
Funding.
season, so, I mean,
It's similar
one
to the
program ended
Tri
and the other
Capital.
one started.
No, it's just, I just can't imagine people being able to afford some of this anymore. It's just, it's crazy, you know, you gotta make the decisions, you're gonna have to prioritize, cause, you know, can I drive the car to get groceries, or do I need to save my money to heat the house, or what should I do?
Right, or put money in your gas tank to get to work.
Yep.
Yeah. It's nuts.
All right, I would look for a motion to approve the EAP delivery here for county.
I'll move it.
Motion by Kneisel,
Second.
second by Kircher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Our last board action form is a request to hire a financial support supervisor. I have Lisa and Laura here to give some supporting documentation if necessary, but we did bring this back to, we did talk about this at the last work session. So some background, the supervisor role includes supervising department staff and programs, providing budgetary and financial monitoring for a group of services and and collaborating and coordinating programs with county and community resources and partners. Assists the unit manager to develop and refine goals and guidelines for established priorities to assure programs are implemented to meet the needs of the public. Our options, or your options, are to authorize the hiring of financial support services supervisor or to not authorize. It's our recommendation to authorize the hiring of the financial support supervisor. This is not a budgeted position for 2022. We do anticipate or plan to budget it for 2023. Although position will be reimbursed approximately 50% from the federal administrative funding, and we do have the other 50% within our budget to be able to support the position.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the request to hire the financial support services supervisor. I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move, and the reason I'm moving is it is 50% funded, but from what I know and what we've been told is the supervisors are supervising, I think, over their max of employees, which I think should not happen. And so I'll support the position and move that we do the hire.
Okay, we have a motion by Kircher to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Standing reports, auditor treasurer.
I don't think I have anything to report new, other than tax statements are at the outsourcers being printed. They should be dropping in the mail within a week, so look for those to come. Wrapped up the township elections that were held, and moving forward with audit in a week, so busy.
Okay. Thank you. Any commissioner reports? Kneisel? Nothing? Mr. Newman?
Lots of meetings.
Lots of meetings. Nothing from Mr. Kircher. I have nothing new at this time. On to coordinators report.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to comment on the great work that the departments are doing with the ARPA committees and meeting and bringing forward some really great ideas, just as you heard today. So I want to thank them.
Yeah, I would like to just add to that, that our first meeting I thought was really good. I mean, really fun with lots of different ideas and discussion and lots of good things to look at. So it'll be interesting to see how that all comes together.
And Commissioner Newman is correct. This does add a lot of extra meetings for commissioners as
does.
well. So thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Lots of meetings.
Anything from the attorney's office this morning?
Nope, not today.
Thank you again for participating and attending. All right, at this time, we will adjourn for the month of March. Look for a motion to adjourn. I think I'm supposed to do that.
Yep, so moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we'll start. on March 15th, 2022. We have with us this morning Chris Auden from the Assessor's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This morning, I gave each commissioner and Chris Bowser a summary of the 2022 assessment changes. The books at your desks reflect the same format that you've seen the last 3-4 years. Today, I just kind of want to briefly go through some of the changes that you're going to see in the book and how some of the numbers appear as compared to 2021. One of the first pages in there is the same as you'll see on the screen here. The description from where we are valued today compared to where we were 1 year ago today. The total county value is currently estimated at $3.7 billion. Last year was 3.1. That is a 20% increase. That's countywide. The following 40 pages in your book show each jurisdiction separately, but this first sheet is just a summary of the county in general.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, please.
How much of that 20% increase would be new? Do you know?
Yep.
Perchance, or does that say, or does that, am I jumping ahead for you?
You are, but that's okay.
I just was curious.
So here's the new sheet. Again, countywide, the Assessor's Department added $41.3 million of new construction in
41,381,000 in new, and how much was the total increase there?
The total increase was $600 million.
Wow.
So of that 600 million, about 40 million of it was brand new. The rest is simply a change in market, what we're seeing in sale
That's
prices.
incredible. That's what I wanted to be able to see.
Yep.
Was that difference?
And you'll find one of those new construction sheets at the bottom of each township and city as well. So you can see specifically where that new construction was built. Moving on, we talked a little bit about market a second ago, and this is a very, very short summary of how we determine market. Market is simply the sales price divided by the estimated assessed value. If we just look at the first one on this list for an example, we have ag and rural bare land. We had 68 sales of ag land bare in Todd County last year. The assessed value was 22% less than the average sale price of that land. So as assessors, our job is to value it within 10% of actual market value. So what we do is we raise the values of particular land types or houses or lakeshore, whatever the case might be, to be within that 10% range. So what you see on that left column where it says preliminary ratio, that's where we started. And the right side is where we ended up. This is not in your book, but it's something I wanted to touch on because it's something that we don't really talk about very much. Sales data analysis. How do we get the sales and what do we do with them after we receive them? So every property that sells in Todd County that's recorded has an ECRV, Certificate of Real Estate Value. That gets sent to the recorder's office, and from the recorder's office, it goes to the assessor's office. So I want to show you what one ECRV looks like. This is all public data, so I'm not worried about any of that. This is an example one. Mr. and Mrs. McDonald sold to or purchased a property from Mark Collins. We have the property information here, which shows the legal, how they're going to use the property, what was included with the purchase price, physical location, parcel number. You can see that they're planning to use it as a residential cabin vacation home, which is exactly what the last owners had it as. The deed type, purchase amount, purchase date, down payment, personal property. In this case, you'll see their appliance package, some furniture, and the dock were left by the former owners. Supplemental, there was an appraisal. It was publicly promoted through a realtor's office. The government wasn't involved. It wasn't a gift. These items here in this supplementary, this is what we use to determine if it's a good sale, something that's arm's length transaction, or if it's a father to son type of transaction. The last section down here is the assessed stuff. So everything prior to this page came to us. This part we enter. So we know that this is a 1981 build. It's 660-foot square house on Little Birch Lake, 102 feet of shoreline. At the time of purchase, we thought that this property was worth $250,000. The net sales amount was $303,000. This was very, very typical. It's not an accident that I chose this one. This is normal for 2021. So that's step one, gather data. Step two is review the data trends by current location or location and property type. So at this stage, I highlighted the ECRV that we just saw. This spreadsheet is what I use to determine what sold and what changes that we have to make sure our ratio is at least 90%. Birchdale Township, you can see how many residential parcels sold in Birchdale this year, 15. Of those 15, 11 of them were on water, 4 of them were not. The ones on water, we had 5 on Little Birch, 3 on Sauk, 3 on Big Birch. Overall, this number right here where my cursor is shows that our ratio was about 23% below when we started. It's currently 91.54. I want you to take note of that 91. We can assess all the way to 105%. We are very diligent to try to keep that number steady. So when we receive these sales, we're not just throwing a blanket on the county. This particular sale, it's Birchdale, and it's Little Birch. So that's the first thing I want to look at is how are those 5 Little Birch sales. So we call it stratification. So Little Birch, we started at 78%, we ended at 92%. My main goal is to try to make these all as equal as possible and reasonable. I think we've achieved that for the most part. And
Can
yeah,
I interject?
please.
You said it was your goal. Is it not the state's goal?
The state has that 15% window. You can be 90, you can be a 105, you can be anywhere in the middle.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying, but to get to 90-some percent,
That's the
it
state.
is the state telling you to do that.
Absolutely.
You're not just saying, I gotta get to.
Well, the
So-
state tells us we need to do
Because
that.
the state is requesting you to
Right.
do that.
I like to be a little bit more accurate than that.
Yeah.
Like if we could have everything at 93, that'd be great. I don't want to have Little Birch at 90% and Big Birch at 105. Technically, they'd be paying 15% more. So the goal is to, yes, be in that ratio for sure, but to try to make that ratio even smaller by choice. More accurate than that.
Still meet the benchmark that the state wants. you to
Absolutely.
be at.
That's goal one.
And
That's
what
the
people
necessity.
don't understand is they think we're doing it because we want to do that. And I've
Right.
talked to you about, I'm opposed to this sales ratio thing because
Understood.
increase that wouldn't have to take place if the state didn't require you to do that.
And part of the reason for that state requirement isn't necessarily county borders or township borders. I like to think of it like a school district border. Take Staples School District, for example. That's in 4 different counties. If Todd County decides that we're going to assess at 100% and Wadena says, well, we're only going to do 50%, the Wadena people, their residents would pay half the rate of school district tax that Todd County residents would. So this spreadsheet I'm showing you here, it's one example, but this thing it's huge. Just to show you how much data we're trying to process. There's 383 lines on this one tab. There are 6 tabs. We're really trying to take the data down as far as possible to get as accurate as possible. Next up, after we've achieved those 90 to 105s for current year, I'd like to look at them for a 5-year history as well. We've been looking at Birchdale in this example, and we've been looking on the water. In the last 5 years, we've had 49 sales in Birchdale on water. We are currently at 93.2% of the sale prices. And you can see historically 91, 91, 92, 98. Again, consistency being something we're striving for here. And then the last step was just simply apply the adjustments based on trends. We've seen this screen today. This is new in your books. This year, because we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, I thought it would be prudent to give you a graph to show changes based over time. The first graph you'll find here is total Todd County, separated by property types. And you can certainly read that for yourself. It's been very, very stable from 18 to 21. See a jump in 22 though.
Why is the green line flat?
The green line looks flat, and I thought it was flat too, so I looked at the data before I came in here, and it's actually $50 million difference. But because our graph here is like, this is 4 trillion, so 50 million doesn't look like that much. And honestly, commercial, industrial, apartment, we don't have a ton of data on that. Our sales show that we're still good, but we just don't simply have a lot of sales of that property type. Not that we're ignoring it.
There's not a lot of people moving it.
Right. Yep.
Or loss of business.
Yeah, and it can be both. You're right. You could have current businesses, existing businesses
Right.
having increases, but losing more.
Losing.
So the net neutral. I don't want to get into these too much today, but for each township, there's also a graph. I separated the county into 4 different quadrants just because I had 28 lines on the same graph and it got a little busy. So I just separated out by quadrants, southwest, southeast, northeast, northwest. Again, you can see the trend is basically the same for all, and the cities as well.
Could we add new construction on this graph?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That
Yep.
would be a good idea. Give us a little idea
Yep.
on that.
This actually received, it's not in your pamphlet or your booklet, but Stearns County Assessor sent this to me yesterday. He had simply asked one question in email. How much did your residential increase? So I told him 22%, and a couple hours later, he had sent this back. He had been surveying surrounding counties just to see what they're looking like. I thought it was worth putting in at the last minute, though, because you can see the consistency through this section of the state. A lot of 17 to 24s or 23. Yeah. We have our land schedule in there. Same format you've seen in the past. This is the annual township levy amounts. So this is the dollar amount each jurisdiction levies for their use. Todd County's on the top, then we have the 28 townships. You can see most of these if you look in the last 2 columns. They're relatively flat. The cities. The sheet again is duplicated again this year. It is just the county portion of your tax statement. So the county raised their levy this year 3.65%. How does that affect each individual parcel, again, on average? So we've been, up until this point, we've talked about 2022 assessment. You have to keep in mind that the 22 taxes are based off of last year's assessment. The 21 assessment is used to tax 22. It didn't fit all on one screen real nice. It does in your book, but you can see on the bottom there that the average parcel will go up $24 in tax, Todd County tax, because of the 3.65. You'll also notice that some parcels or some townships go up more than that and some go down. That's because in 2021 and every year, the assessment isn't the same for every parcel. It's not the same for every jurisdiction. It's not the same for every property type. So you're going to see things like Staples Township had a huge increase last year. And we know that just by looking at the fact that their values or their tax isn't going up $24, it's going up $118. And the opposite can be said for Villard. Questions on this?
When's the valuation sheets coming out?
The valuation sheets are going to be mailed tomorrow.
Okay, because we just
So
got
they
ours
should
from
be-
St. Louis County, so,
I would assume it'll be about 4 days after that, 3 to 5.
okay.
But mailing date is set tomorrow.
'Cause the one thing we gotta do is try to get the word out to the public that they have to follow the process.
Yep, and towards the back of the booklet that I gave you, there is a blue sheet. It's actually the very last page. There's a new format this year. I don't like the new format, but it says very clearly that, classification or value is now. I think it's a little busier than the last one that we were given, but I wanted to make sure that, you could see what the people are going to be getting.
Because usually in December, people come.
Yep, and that's
Taxation
the
meeting,
too
thinking
late.
This is the one, and we gotta get the public's perception to figure, this is where you gotta,
This is where your value changes. In April for your townships and cities, June for the county board.
Yep.
Don't come to the county board unless you've been to the township.
so they
You have
need
to follow that
process.
chain of command. That's all I had, unless there was any questions or concerns.
It's very interesting.
Could you please forward that onto the clerk file,
The
presentation today?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. That's it.
We have an idea who's gonna get hit the hardest this year? It's gonna be Ag, Lake Shore, Gary? Oh, sorry.
If we look at this first sheet, well, it's not first in your book, but it's very close to the front, just the Todd County general overall. Our general overall is 20%. So when you start looking at the township pages, if you're seeing values that are significantly different than 20, those are the ones that are going to be hit the hardest and the least. So if you have a township that's went up 30%, you can assume their taxes will go up in 2023. The same can be said for townships and cities that went up less than 20%. There was no downs. Every single one went up. Every value, overall value of township or city increased in 2022. But yes, if you went up more than 20% in value, your taxes will be reflective of that in the following year. And the second also important part of the equation is what the levy is going to do in 2023, which we don't know yet.
Questions, commissioners?
All right then.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
We need to do anything here?
Election review.
Today, we're going to do a little election review. Our office has been receiving a little, I don't want to say pushback, but a lot of questions coming from some of the community, just questioning general elections, questions in general is what I want to say. Just how we process an election, the integrity of the election. And so in discussing this at the board meeting a few weeks ago when we had the gentleman come in and ask some questions, Jolene and I kind of put our heads together and came up with this presentation. And I'm just going to have Jolene go through it. She can describe it. She's the actual head election personnel that took my position when I came into this position. And so she's been doing the latest revisions to how the election process is done. And so Jolene, if you want to take over the presentation, go ahead.
Go down there. So today, the three things that we're gonna go over, and please ask questions as we go along. This is just an educational time for the public and for you, the board, is to talk about the important dates in 2022 coming up. I'm talking about our voting equipment and some methods that our Todd County voters can use to cast their ballot. So first and foremost, here's the brief summary of the key dates for the 2022 election cycle. The first portion of our journey this year is to complete the redistricting process by the end of April on the 26th, so that we are ready for candidate filing period to open in the middle of May on the 17th. After that, our office will be moving quickly to prepare for the primary election because absentee voting opens the end of June 24th, with election day for the state primary being held on August 9th. And then moving into the fall, our really heavy busy season will come upon us with preparations for the absentee voting season to be opening on September 23rd, and the state general election day is on the calendar for November 8th this year. So next we'll dive into taking a moment to review the voting equipment that we use in all of our precincts.
I don't know how you had your format set up.
It's just page by page here. There we go. So just to remind where we came from here in Todd County with our voting equipment, from 2006 to 2018, Todd County utilized 2 equipments in our precincts. And this was due to federal and state laws that were put into place in 2002 and 2004 as part of the Help Americans Vote Act, also known as the HAVA Act, which provided federal funding to assist in these purchases, purchasing the AutoMark machine, which is on my left, hopefully your left, as you're looking at the same image there. The assistive voting machine is the machine that allows voters with disabilities the opportunity to cast their vote in private. It's basically a very large pen system for them. And at that time, back in 2006, it was consensus at that time to move forward with changing the county's vote tabulations from a centralized vote counting to a at the precinct tabulation to enable quicker tabulation of our ballots and results reporting to meet the voters' expectations. As we all know, our society is pushing to know the answers as soon as possible, and those precinct tabulators allow us to collect that data even quicker than the centralized function. Then in 2018 to present is when we made the shift and upgraded our aging equipment, which we did over a 3-year time period. This allowed this 3-year plan for the upgrades to our aging equipment to allow our cities and townships to slowly and gracefully afford those purchases within their budgets. Our office took caution in approaching each of these machine purchases that we are now employing by piloting ahead of each large purchase. So in 2016, the county auditor's office utilized the DS200 tabulator to tabulate our absentee portions so that we got comfortable with the machine before we deployed that countywide in 2018. Again, in 2019, we brought in the poll pads, but before that, in 2018, we had approximately 10 precincts be willing to be our pilot precincts to get familiar with the product before we went countywide. And then last but not least, in 2020 is when we brought in the Omni ballot machine, which replaced the large automarks, and that was first deployed in November of 2020. We provide step-by-step picture guides to all of our election judges on utilizing these machines and equipments, and our guides have become a very solid resource for our fellow Minnesota counties who have reached out and said, hey, how did you do that? And we've been glad to share our ideas with them as well. So, how do we use these election equipments that we currently have? Well, first of all, the Omni ballot machine is the machine that allows a person to vote their ballot independently with some assistance. All of the data that goes on the Omni ballot machines is transferred onto there by USB data sticks. There's no live internet connectivity enabled on the machines. Thereafter, after an election, there's no data that we need to download off of the machine. It is just, for lack of a better way to say it, an oversized pen. Okay, there's no need to take any data back off. When we go to another election, we simply just rewrite over the data that's on that machine. Each election has its own separate login passcode specific to that election. The tabulators that we have, the DS200 tabulators, they're supported by C-Change, which is out of St. Cloud, and the equipment is based out of Election System and Software, which support us with our programming of these units, both the Omni ballot and the tabulators. The tabulators, again, we load all of our data on there by USB. Again, no internet connection necessary or enabled. Each election has a specific login profile for it. This machine then provides that printed summary of the votes tabulated on that specific unit at that precinct. And on election night then, our election judges across the county physically transport that data card from the tabulator to the county office for downloading. So there's no sending anything electronically. There's no, no internet connection enabled on them in our county. There are a handful of counties in the state of Minnesota that do transmit their results from these tabulators by modem. And it's literally a handful, approximately 5 from what I understand. Otherwise, the rest of us are having our election judges drive them down to us here at the county office.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, Jolene. How many of our town halls have internet?
I don't know if I know that answer. I don't
That'd be
believe
a
many of our
good
town halls
question
do
to
have
ask.
internet.
I don't know, I would,
Or,
it's,
you know, how many of our polling places actually have internet?
I think it'd be very limited.
Very limited. I
For
believe your
voting, you don't
cities.
want them connected to the internet.
No, I think that's what he's getting at. He's saying
Oh.
they don't have internet
Right.
connection there.
See, and that's the perception out there is that they're getting hacked. Well, if they don't have access to internet, it's pretty hard to hack it.
And that's why we continue to clarify in here, everything is USB card data transferred. There is no internet
Right.
connection.
But I know there's a couple of in my district, they don't have access to internet. So,
Correct. I believe it's mostly the cities
I
that
would
may
think it's a high
have
percentage though.
any ability
I
direct
think
connected. to
Ward
the
has it,
sites.
isn't it? Which one, Moran? Which one had the grant of the Moran, wasn't it?
Moran,
Moran
yep,
had the grant, yeah.
yep.
Otherwise, I don't know if any of them.
All right,
Something to
so
find
we are very proud to say here in Todd County that our equipment is set to be quote-unquote dumb or not live on the grid on election day. That is how Todd County has chosen to utilize the equipment. Okay. Either way, if a voter is curious or would like to learn more about how these machines are tested, they're welcome to visit us at our published public accuracy testing events that we hold within a 2-week window prior to each election, where they could come in and see and watch us mark ballots with the Omni ballot machine and mark ballots by hand and ensure that it tabulates a pre-described result through the tabulation system. We do this testing system very diligently before every election. So you're welcome to come and visit us for any of those events. And they'll be published so you know when they're happening. The other technologies used here in Todd County are what we call the ERM. It's a reporting manager tool. This is a standalone, off-the-grid computer software system. And this is a system then that we utilize to combine the results of all the data cards that come in from our precincts on the state elections. Again, it's standalone. It does not plug into the county network at all during this process. We test this system as well as part of our public accuracy testing process to ensure that the data is being accumulated correctly into one large file. That large file then is put onto a USB data stick, and that is what is plugged into a county secured network computer to do the file upload to the state's results system that the public sees. So very, very briefly is that data file connected to the live internet on election night. The last piece of equipment that we use here in Todd County, and perhaps the one that's feeling the newest to most of our precincts, is the poll pads. The poll pad is now an electronic version of the roster. Before, we used to have those in paper binder books. To allow more confidentiality of the data that's in those books for voter privacy, it was determined that the poll pads were a wonderful tool to assist protecting that data privacy for our voters. So how we facilitate the poll pads is only certified staff within the election office here connect those iPads to the secured Todd County Wi-Fi network to download the roster files on. Once they are downloaded on, we then disable all of the internet connectivity to that pad. So out at your precincts, the election judges are not able to access any internet connection on those poll pads, okay? If there is any updated data that needs to be transmitted onto those pads, certified staff from our auditor treasurer's office physically go to those polling locations and insert that update via USB cards. Then after the election, we then resecure connection to the Todd County secured Wi-Fi system here to download those files so that we can post history, record voter registration applications received on election day, etc. We're excited to further strengthen our secured connections that we utilize, which we believe are very strong, and we thank MIS's department for helping us with those connections and that support, and look forward to bringing even more secured connections for these brief online data transfers with our recent election security grant funding that we're waiting award on very soon. And if y'all wonder what all of this looks like, well, here's just a couple pictures of our election room down at Main Street, if you've ever taken a visit down there since our remodel down there a couple years ago. It's a pretty impressive room that holds a lot of boxes, a lot of cases, and in a very organized manner. And we're pretty proud of the layout and the function of that room, so we thank you for that. Okay. So the other thing that we wanted to touch on today was the different voting methods that our Todd County voters can utilize here in 2022. First and foremost is they can visit our polling locations on election day. Todd County has 40 polling locations to serve our voters in 35 physical sites. We have 5 shared locations where we have a township and city at the same site. Typically, those are our township halls or our city community centers, things like that. Very accessible locations. And the map of all of those locations is available on our county website at any time. But there are some other methods that voters can utilize to cast their ballot within the state of Minnesota. The first one here that I've noted is mail ballot. This came even higher to light in 2020 because of the pandemic. And I would like to make note that we do have one precinct here in Todd County that does utilize mail ballot, but it is very, very small, okay, one household. So mail ballot is where the local government, the city or township, can adopt a resolution authorizing this process. what mail ballot is, and it has to be a town or a city of a certain size, or under a certain amount of registered voters. Ballots are mailed then directly to each registered voter at a couple time periods preceding the election date. Okay? Then the open polling place on election day becomes the office of the clerk, or typically the county auditor. And that's what we are for our one precinct. The auditor's office serves that role. They are subject, those ballot packets are subject to a ballot board process, just like the absentees are, subject to an accepting and rejecting process. Another option out there is early voting, and that may be also known as direct balloting. That is only currently, there's bills down at the legislature that may open this up to a larger time frame, but right now, according to statute, it's only the last 7 days preceding an election. And basically, it's a streamlined absentee process where a person can come in directly to the auditor's counter or the auditor's designated locations and complete a streamlined absentee process where when they complete their ballot, they insert it directly into a tabulator instead of using the envelope system. Here in Todd County, we do not utilize that system simply because of the cost versus amount of use balance is not cost effective yet here in Todd County. So, the majority of our early voting here in Todd County is actually absentee voting. So all of the absentee ballots are handled here for Todd County voters within the Todd County Auditor Treasurer's office. We handle all of the issuance for the state primary and the state general elections. Now, if there are standalone elections like the recent March Township elections, or if the school districts call a special election on a different date, then those entities have to handle their own absentee ballot issuing. But for the large state elections, the county office handles that for the entire county, as we haven't had any of our precincts jump up and down and volunteer that they want to help us out with that. So we are glad to serve our citizens with that service. I would like to make note, though, that other Minnesota counties could have these duties assigned differently because of factors such as distance, staffing issues, the volume of absentee ballots that they're handling. One prime example that I can think of is that in Stearns County, they have multiple absentee voting locations. For example, they have some where they come up to the city of Melrose or the city of Sauk Center instead of having to drive all the way down to St. Cloud to the county seat. Okay, so they have those satellite locations to save our voters from having to travel a distance to reach this service. So our office then fulfills all of the absentee ballot requests in-house in our office. This could also differ from other Minnesota counties as well. Other Minnesota counties have opted, instead of utilizing internal staffing and departments, to use contracted services to handle the high demand. But of course, those contracted services also come with a price tag. So we have opted here in Todd County to keep that in-house at this time. The online request portal, if a person wishes to request an absentee ballot already for this busy 2022 season, the online portal should be available no later than June 1. I expect the state to stand that up here in May. And our office is open at any time already to receive paper applications in anticipation of the summer and fall elections. And here I would just like to illustrate the process that an absentee ballot travels through from initial request to final acceptance for your understanding. So first and foremost, our office receives an absentee ballot application request. Okay, these applications can be sent to us and received to us by mail, by email, and by fax in person, okay, because it's just an application form, whatever suits that voter's abilities the best to reach us. The next step on their journey is that the county here will process their request and issue the absentee packet. We may issue that packet in person to the voter if they're right at our counter. We will mail it directly to the voter, as statute derives, Or if a person happens to be in the military or overseas, there may be a few other options that we can look at as far as some electronic submission. Very limited cases there. But we always ensure to the best that we're able, that we issue that ballot packet directly to the voter it's intended for, either in person or by mail. Okay. Next, that absentee voter will complete their packet and return it here to the county office. They can return it by pre-postage paid mail, or they can drop it off in person or have another person drop it off in their stead. Whatever is most comfortable for them. All of that tracking and all of the ballot counts then must balance. So Minnesota remains a paper ballot state, and I believe holds very strong to that. And because of that, everything that we're issuing out, everything that we're receiving in, we are constantly balancing our numbers. What did we begin with? How many have we sent out? How many are returned? How many do we have remaining? And we're making sure that those number of paper ballots and what have you balance at all times. And the last step that an absentee ballot will travel is to visit our absentee ballot board. And that board typically meets every Tuesday and Thursday during the 46 days before each election, which is your absentee voting period. Except the last week, then we typically have that board meet every day to meet statutory guidelines of how often that board needs to meet. And that's where an absentee ballot is accepted or rejected, according to statutory guideline. Okay. So the absentee ballot, once accepted, is by the absentee ballot board, is then stored by precinct in the Todd County Auditor Treasurer's vault for safekeeping until election day. We record again that an absentee ballot has been formally accepted by the absentee ballot board, and that acceptance, that notation is made directly on the precinct's roster. This prevents that person then from signing the roster, or any person from signing the roster under this voter's identity on election day, so that no person is able to cast more than one ballot under each identity. Then no earlier than 7 days before the election, the absentee ballot board begins the preparation of the ballots for tabulation. We're continually, again, verifying that the total number of the accepted ballots on hand matches the physical number of ballots that we have versus our tracking lists of how many were processed by the absentee ballot board. Always checks and balance systems. So once this 7-day period commences, an absentee voter is no longer able to submit a subsequent absentee request, which is also known as clawing back their ballot. Okay. On election night then, again, the absentee ballot boards are tabulated by the AB board, and those tabulations are then combined with the precinct's election day totals once delivered from the precincts to the county office before we publish them online in the state's results search engine. So our office continues to grow our skills, our experience, training. We're always continually learning, trying to brush up even more on our knowledge of this process to provide the best equipped election team to serve the voters of Todd County. We believe it provides a very reliable service to uphold the integrity of our Todd County elections. And we appreciate your continued support and welcome any questions you have about the process.
You will note that in our slideshow, there was no machines called Dominion. That should secure the voters' question of integrity as well.
So I think my folks got like 6 ballots mailed to them. How the hell did that happen?
Well, it wouldn't have been ballots, it would have been
It may have been
applications to
applications.
apply for an
Okay.
absentee ballot. And you will have a lot of these entities. I know we see early voting associations, the women's right to vote. I mean, every entity has a little logo that comes out, might come in a postcard, might come in a trifold thing.
And I know they followed the process and got a hold of you guys here, but it was really interesting to see that many coming in the mail, and it's like,
Yeah,
Who are these peop-
every
who are
little
these people?
entity starts sending them out before an election, you know, the groups.
interest groups.
Interest groups, yeah.
Wow.
So we encourage our Todd County voters to reach out directly to us if there's any wonder, confusion, or they want confirmation of something. You can track your absentee ballot application status online at any time. You can see if it's been received by us. You can see if we've submitted out, we've sent a packet out, whether we received it back in, whether it's been accepted, can all be tracked online.
And like we said, we just did this presentation. I know some of the board members requested it just to find out how the process goes. I know it's lengthy, but there is a lot to an election process. And this is just the surface of what we wanted to show you. Our election judge training's over 2.5 hours to train an election judge. Head judges come back, take an additional hour. So, yeah, it's a lot of education in this process. But we thank you for your time and hope we educated some of the public. If anybody has any questions or anybody from the public, feel free to call our office. We'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you for the presentation.